Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Another edition of Stacks Club. I've got a special show for you tonight. Going to go around the table here, but just real quick, I wanted to say thank you, everyone, for tuning in tonight. We've been talking about this for a while, but again, this is really special because we're talking about the history of NFTs tonight, and NFTs are just a huge topic right now, not only in cryptocurrency but in the entire world. But again, I just really super excited to have this show tonight. Travis, I just wanted to say thank you again for joining us tonight. We'll introduce ourselves here in a minute, but just going around the room real quick on the screen so everybody knows the format tonight. We've got the mayor of Matic joining us, and Doc. Always nice to see you both as well. Just real quick going around the room. Good evening to everyone. Take a deep breath. The Saturday shit show. Just gonna relax tonight. A very informal format. That's what we like doing in these shows. Doing this live and talking about whatever we feel like talking about. We want the crowd to be interactive. So if you guys are watching out on the internet, again, appreciate the follows and likes and comments and keep that stuff coming. Doc, man, good evening. Good evening to you. How you doing tonight, man? Good to see you.
Good evening, Biff. I'm doing great tonight, man. Just got back from the monster truck races with my kids. Gave my wife a free night at home tonight. So she got to relax, which means happy wife, happy life, right?
Yeah, that sounds awesome. No, nothing bad in there. That sounds like a good American evening right there.
Yeah, we had a blast. We had a blast. Looking forward to the show tonight, man.
Well, thanks for joining again, Travis. A newcomer to the
Yeah,
show. Thank you again for joining us tonight. Co-founder of Curio Cards. Again for the intro. Just a quick intro. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll move right along here.
yeah. Thanks for having me on, Biff. As you said, Travis, I helped co-found Curio Cards, which is just the oldest art NFT project on Ethereum, and happy to talk about some ancient history from a long, long time ago of 4 years.
Ancient history, 4 years
Ancient
ago,
history.
and we were just talking about that before the show too.
It is ancient in crypto.
Yeah,
Yeah,
how it perpetually.
4-year-old cards are a hell of an antique.
Hey, it is what it is, right?
Mhm.
We're all about that. We don't pull punches, and we definitely don't call anything, other than what it is. Without getting too far down in the rabbit hole there, Mayor. Thanks for. Well, we got two mayors actually, because Travis is a mayor too. We're gonna have to talk about where that tag came from. But Mayor
There
of
you go.
Matic, thank you for joining us as well. Good evening to you, sir. To you,
Good,
sir. How are you?
good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Fabulous hanging out here with you, fine gentlemen, and NFT royalty with us tonight. So we should have a fabulous show.
Isn't it cool? We did a show a few weeks ago, and now we're full circle, and we're here talking to Travis,
It
which I think
is.
is just super awesome. So again, I appreciate you all for joining us tonight. Again, this will be informal, so get those questions in there if you have any questions for these amazing guests. And obviously for Travis tonight, hit those socials up. If it's streaming somewhere on YouTube or Twitch, feel free to jump in there. We're on Telegram. I mean, we're pretty easy to get a hold of these days, guys. So don't be scared. Ask questions. Mayor, we can look at NFTs if you want. And you can share your screen with us, and we can kind of just look at the NFT market in general. But I want to focus just, you know, not only on the Curio cards collection tonight, but like Travis's story, like his friends, like we're doing here tonight, just kind of talking. Like I want to know even like what predated Curio cards, like how they came to be, and
Mhm.
if you want to talk about that, now, Travis too, or we can kind of look at some NFTs, look at the collection first, whatever you guys want to do.
Yeah, I mean, like, let's look at some NFTs so people know what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah, Mayor,
But then
let's
I'd love to tell you that story.
let's
Absolutely.
let's share your screen, and then we'll that's actually probably a good like segue to just kind of um
Mhm.
looking at the collection, and then
For me and the people I know, Curio is a household name, but it may not be as much of a household name for everyone else.
Right on. Yeah, let me hang on. I'm having a delay here to share my screen now.
it's
Okay,
okay. I can pull mine up too.
I got it here. Advanced portion screen. Okay.
There they are.
Okay. Let me just.
If you order it by oldest on the drop down, it figures out the cards. Yeah.
I have the. Okay. We'll just pull this guy up here for us.
Yeah, there's this too. Yeah. This is the gallery.curio.cards.
Yeah. So this is what we were looking at. What, mid-July, and if anybody's new for the collection, this feels really weird that I'm explaining it. We got Travis right here, but
You did a great job explain. I watched that clip where you were talking about it, and I've seen people talk about curio cards, and they'll get like 80-90% of the way there, and that's great, that's fine. But you, perfect, like no notes. You got every single detail correct.
Thank you. And a lot of it was
This
just
is the show to watch for accuracy.
researching, because when you're investing and you're like, you just don't know, what's going to be highly sought after, why some cards are drawn premiums, and you're looking at the mint counts, and like this Apple, if you were with us in the July show, the Apple's fetching a hefty premium, and it's got like 1,800 units, and then it's fetching like a premium over some of these 500 unit cards, but because it's the first, and some whales coming in grabbing stacks of them. I particularly remember this crypto graffiti collection when I was in. When did this collection drop? It was 2017.
Yeah, May 2017 is when the first one came out, and we released them 3 every week, so it kind of staggers out from May 9th is when it started.
Okay. So I remember these, but I wasn't in crypto when they dropped. So like when I had seen them, it was probably like later, like Q4 of 2017. But I definitely remember this MasterCard one, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then I went to look into it, and I was so new into crypto, I'd only owned Bitcoin. And I was like, how do you buy this? And they were like, oh, it's on Ethereum. And I was like, that's retarded. Why would I buy this? Because back then it was like there was a lot of Ethereum haters. Like now it's like
it was Bitcoin or nothing. I mean, when it first started, and I was there too, Bitcoin was the only thing. That's all that existed. That's everything that was, and everything else were kind of like their experiments. They were test nets, So I totally get it. But these pieces, they were famous outside of us. This is Crypto Graffiti's work, and he'd make these into stickers, and he'd put them on like ATMs and stuff. And I mean, Biff has in his foreground card 13 right there on a shirt. I mean, these exist in many mediums. And
I like that one.
This is the digital medium.
I like them all. It was really tough to pick, but I was just kind of going through after our show. I was like, I want this, I want this. It was like what I can afford, right, too, because some of these are going for a hefty premium, as they should. But one of the question I had, even while we're looking at this, Travis, is like, can you scroll up, Mayor? Like, start at the Apple, and we were talking about kind of how this collection evolves, or it's almost like the kind of like you're looking at the evolution, or maybe of something like leading up into cryptocurrency as it is today. But what was the original idea, when you guys sat down and, before all this actually was minted, and you guys, we're going to talk about some of that technical stuff, but what was the original idea?
Yeah, as you say, you can see the story evolve in these first 10, but also in the whole collection. There's a whole range of different things that we tried out, because that's kind of how it started out, was an experiment. So I met Tom and Rhett, who are the other co-founders of Curio Cards. I met them through the San Francisco Bitcoin Meetup group. Me and Tom organized that at the time, and Tom was the YouTuber for crypto. He had a channel called Mad Bitcoins, and it was, the #1 place to go for, crypto news, Bitcoin news. It was all Bitcoin then. And we met through the event, and we had done an art show the year before to feature some artists selling their work in crypto, and art, mostly about crypto. Actually, no, I think all the art was about crypto. There had been a craft fair a year before that had artists selling things for crypto, but they weren't necessarily about crypto. So there's kind of a tradition of just kind of engaging with that community. And we got talking around, Bitcoin solves this problem of having a digital thing that is scarce and rare, and digital artists can't sell their work because digital artwork is not scarce and rare. It was just not an option at the time. Obviously now NFT market, it's huge. It totally revolutionized things for digital artists. But at the time, this is a quote that I heard, like you could only make money as a digital artist if you got a job at like Pixar or Blizzard, right? Like a movie studio or a game studio. And it just made so much sense to us that you would take the thing that makes Bitcoin rare and collectible and digital art and just put them together. And we weren't the first ones to do that. There were some projects on Bitcoin experimenting with this as well. There were some around like different memes and things. Rare Pepe was the big one at the time. And we wanted to do that, but we wanted to do it a little bit differently. We didn't want to just be around one meme. We wanted to try a lot of things. It actually originally, I think, started out as we were gonna do like baseball card kind of things, but for like people, like you could just like put your face on a card. Anybody could have a card made of themselves. I think it was based on like something that like Andreas Antonopoulos would say about how like, oh, everyone's gonna have their own coin. There'll be a Charlie coin and a Frank coin and a Sarah coin. So like, well, cool, let's do like a card. Everybody can have a card. But that didn't really engage with the art community that we had been working with. So that's why the first 10, we went to an artist and we said, like, help us make the first 10. And we had a whole conversation, a lot of input from 3 of us, as well as the artist, as to what those first 10 would be. And the idea was it would tell a cohesive story and we just kind of see what would happen. And we had aspirations that this could be like a profitable thing that people would love and get excited about. So we thought, we'll do these 10. It'll get interest, you'll get hype, it'll get some funds together and we'll just keep going from there. Nobody cared when we put these out. There were like no sales. A lot of these remained unsold.
Let's stop right there for a second.
Now.
Yeah, I want to stop you just for a second because artists out there, when they make their first mints, right, or they initially put designs out there and maybe stuff doesn't sell right away, a lot of them just kind of stop and and instead of just keep going, right, they get depressed or feel like because their art doesn't sell right away that it's not more valuable or it's not good, right? So I just wanted to stop there just for a minute because you said when you release these, right, it didn't exactly catch the world by fire, right?
Yeah. We kept going though. You can see we did 30 of them, but we just figured it was a matter of education because that's how Bitcoin was at the time for everything. It was just always a matter of education. We would do the event people would show up and they didn't know what Bitcoin was. They'd be like, I heard about this thing. And that was like pretty much everyone who showed up at the event were people saying, I don't know what this is. So our events were geared, it was like 101. We even had a thing called Bitcoin 101 that we did every Saturday or every other Saturday, I forget, at this place called 20 Mission. And we had like a common set of slides and we'd present the slides. And if we see someone in the audience after like 4 or 5 weeks, it'd be like, hey, do you want to present the slides next time? And, I'll do it with you. It's fine. It's totally
participation, cool. Interaction.
Yeah. And you learn more when you have to actually like talk about the thing in front of people.
Definitely.
And it wasn't a big group, it'd be like 10 people, 15 people. I think 25 was like the max the room could even hold. And there'd be like coffee. And so, yeah, we just figured it was a matter of education. We just had to explain to people what makes these special, the idea, right, of NFT. Now you go to like a Bitcoin conference, there is no, okay, the first thing we're gonna do is Bitcoin 101 panel. No, it's like, what is the future of Bitcoin? It's like everyone knows all the basics. And I don't have to explain to anyone what an NFT is either. I don't have to tell you why this is valuable or how this works. I mean, we talk about the technical details of Curio specifically, but everyone gets it. So we just spent the rest of the series. I'd go on like podcasts and shows and talk at events and talk to investors and just try to kind of explain to people what made this special. And it never really clicked. I think it was just clearly too early.
Well, it's still early, so that's something we joke about because
too early. Now it's just
early.
You
say we're so early, and this space. Everybody says space too much now too, so I try not to use that word as much. But you know, to your point, right? I try to explain these things. We try to explain these things to people on the outside of cryptocurrency today, and their eyes glaze over, right? And you lose people really quickly. I can't imagine what this was like in 2010, you know, or even, you know, 2015, 2016, 2017, even thinking about this stuff. Now, while we're there, before we, you know, get into the collection, can you just talk briefly, without going into too much detail, I guess, about like what you even did to mint something on an ERC20, like prior to, you know, what we're looking at here? You had to actually like do some sort of wrapping mechanism to even sell. Can you just kind of go into like the technicals of like how you even pulled this stuff off?
Yeah, you mean for the rediscovery with the wrapper, or originally back in 2017?
Both. Yeah, like
Okay.
how you like even decided like how you were gonna mint these things, and like what kind of interface you could even look at the art on, like how did all that work?
Oh, it didn't. It
Yeah,
didn't
okay,
exist. You
okay.
really had two. You had two options. There was one route where it did. So you had two options. One was do it on Counterparty, which was what Rare Pepe launched on. Counterparty, it's sort of like a sidechains layer two kind of thing for Bitcoin. It's kind of based on this idea of colored coins, and there's a whole technical description of that I can get into if you're curious. But it just lets you add extra information into a Bitcoin transaction. So they would take a little bit of Bitcoin and say, like, that's not a little bit of Bitcoin, that's actually a Pepe card. Homer Pepe, is a meme. It's Homer Simpson, but he's a Pepe. And they had the benefit of Counterparty had built this really cool DEX, this kind of decentralized, way to exchange assets on Counterparty. It was existed and it worked, so they could use that, and they built a really cool web wallet. So you could just sort of fork them, right, or use their code, and we could launch on Counterparty. So that was like our first option in the first place we started looking. But there were some downsides to that as well. So at the time, Ethereum, was this really cheap, really fast, really flexible platform, the smart contract language, and Counterparty, takes 10 minutes to an hour, to have a block verify. And obviously it sounds insane now, but the gas was very expensive on Bitcoin. It'd be like a couple dollars, right? And the idea of buying an NFT, it was a couple dollars, and the gas, what do they call gas? The fees were a couple dollars. That seemed, like an issue. Whereas
Sure.
Ethereum, it was pennies.
At that
Because it was just
time,
the
it
new
was
thing.
nothing,
Yeah, it was
right?
the new thing. And now it's completely flipped, right? Now
Right,
Bitcoin's super
right.
cheap and Ethereum's
Mm-hmm.
hundreds of dollars. But at the time, like, Ethereum was the flexible, fast, cheap option where we kind of just could mess around and iterate faster. So we said, okay, well, let's experiment there. I say we, but we discussed it as a group. But if you want to scroll down to card 23, for all of the amazing actually getting any of this stuff to work, it was Rhett. So Rhett was our Solidity developer. Card 23 is based on Rhett, the Barbarian, because he was the muscle. He brought in just a crazy, wealth of knowledge. He's a very interesting guy. He has like he's a nuclear physicist from MIT,
Wow.
who just would mess around with crypto stuff. He forked Zcash and removed their founders reward that they'd put in. They had like this, like, every block,
That's a
20%
decent
or
resume,
whatever
I
goes to
guess.
them. Yeah.
So is
And it was
that
like
Z
20 lines of
Classic?
code. Yeah, he's Z Classic. Yep.
Oh, so this dude forked Z Classic.
Zcash, he made Z Classic. Yeah.
Right, right. Wow,
Mhm.
amazing.
Mhm.
And then is this 22 card you?
That is accurately based on me. Yes.
Right, okay. And then this is Mad
Is there a
Bitcoins over
story
here.
about
And
a
that's Mad Bitcoins.
ukulele? I'm just curious.
No, I think it's just this is Roback's artwork, and he wanted to create like archetypes. In a lot of ways, you're kind of like the first avatar NFTs, right? He wanted to create archetypes. Actually, Clumps might have been out at this point, I think, but he wanted to do like a game, like a trio, like a Dungeons and Dragons kind of thing. He actually has a commercial for these cards that's based off
Oh
of
yeah.
some old, game.
We gotta go dig that up now
super.
too.
Yeah, we'll
It's
pull it
on
up.
the artist's page. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay. You guys want to watch?
We could play it later if you want. But
Right,
yeah,
right,
so
sure.
they're just the archetypes, and one of them's the bard, because I was the one going around telling everyone about it.
The
So I was the
bard.
voice.
Okay. Yep.
So that's why the ukulele. I'm going around singing the tale, telling everybody, doing what I'm doing right now, telling everyone about Curio.
That's awesome.
That's
But
beautiful.
yeah,
And now
Rhett
you
did
come
it. Rhett
full
made the
circle.
Solidity work. Yeah. And Rhett had to build it all from scratch. So there was no ERC 721, which is what NFTs are built on now. There was no ERC 1155, which is kind of a newer version of 721 that we now use for the wrapper. There were no fancy IDEs, there were no like testing suites, there were no simulators and automated deployments. He had to use like a cobbled together collection of random tools. And the Curio NFT contract was based on ERC20, which is sort of your standard token,
Right.
your Uniswap token, right? It's just an ERC20, fungible. You can divide them up into tiny millions of pieces, not art, right?
Yeah, you can make
not a
one in about
collectible.
5 minutes, right? The token
Yeah.
part
Mhm.
is easy, right? It's like translating it from there that I'm really
He had
interested
to
to hear you
turn
talk
that
about.
in. He had to turn that into a collectible piece of artwork. And there's a lot of kind of clever ways he did it. And one of the clever ways, which I actually think now kind of really helps the story, is in ERC 721s, when you buy the thing the first time is when it gets created, not when it's deployed. It's when the first person buys it.
Right.
So there are things like Mooncat's Rescue, where even though the project is super old and the contracts were deployed way back when, and in my mind, like that's what matters, the code existed on the network then, people still get into this whole kind of internal dialogue around the ones that were bought recently have a mint date recently, even though the contract is an old contract that was on the chain. And that's what matters. People still point, yes, but this particular NFT is not old. It was minted because it had never been bought, right? It was bought more recently. We didn't have a mint function. None of that stuff existed. When we deployed these, we created all of them up front. Rhett made them all up front. And then he had a separate contract that did that role of the mint called a vending machine contract. And you send ETH to it and it sends you art back.
Yep.
And that was, I don't know if it's the first, but it's definitely one of those first kind of buying something, from a contract directly that you see so much of now with the mint functions.
I worked with
So the point is, they were all created in 2017. Even the ones bought for the first time in March of this year, every single Curio card was minted in 2017.
So the vending machines were still active this year with unsold cards.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But those cards they already existed. We created them and then put them in the vending machine and they just sat there cold, right? Unbought, but they existed. They were already minted. They already existed on chain. And that was kind of like a technical limitation. Like we would have done it the other way if we had known how. But a technical limitation now kind of secures the age of all of the cards, even the ones that were left unsold.
Absolutely. Right. Something I'm ashamed of is I remember people, criticizing CryptoPunks even like before this year where they're like, it's not the first one. It's not the first one. And I never took the time to research and be like, well, what was earlier? And then I didn't see it until like maybe, June or July. I seen like a graphic pop up and it was like somebody had like taken the time to like do the little timeline and it was like Curio cards like before punks. And that's what led me to like dive down the rabbit hole.
I watched something too, and I'm drawing a blank on where it came from too, but maybe it was an interview or something with Travis, and he was actually talking about how he talked to somebody at a convention from punks and like asked them that, they were advertising, hey, we're the first, and you were like, when did you guys come out? And then you were like, oh, we were a month before you or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
Is that really how you found out? Like, you guys didn't really know that this was the, I guess, right? Like, is that correct?
It wasn't relevant.
Right.
Being first wasn't relevant back then. There was no antiqueness to this. It was just like, oh yeah, we all made things this year. Great.
We're looking at 4-year-old antiques. I love this, but yes. Okay.
But like at the time, there was no special property. And also the idea that people would value the age didn't exist as a concept even. Thinking about it, of course, that makes sense. The whole point of a blockchain is everything's recorded on the record. That record is where all the value comes from. So like having an old record, it's more valuable, it's more secure. So it totally makes sense. But at the time, it wasn't really the conversation around these. The conversation was just, will people find a JPEG you can download, but you can own a thing that is maybe a reference to the thing. Will people actually get that, right? That was the whole conversation. Will anybody get this? Nobody cared about who was first. But that story, I was at Rare AF, which is like the best conference name ever, in New York, about like a year later after Curio cards come out, and it was a year later, and CryptoPunks, they're on the stage. The guys on the stage presenting, because they managed to like get the market fit. People knew about them. They got really popular. They really appealed to people. They had just better marketing. And I'm in the audience with my project, and he's on the stage, and I wasn't like trying to cause trouble. I think that actually the question happened. Somebody asked the question, of the panel, who was first, right? And everyone kind of looked at the punks and they said we were first. And so I raised my hand, and actually there's a project called Curio cards that came out 3 weeks or 4 weeks before that I did, and they were like, oh wow, that's really cool. And it wasn't like animosity. It was a little awkward, but it wasn't any animosity because it wasn't a special property. I don't. At the time, punks didn't even put it in their marketing. They weren't like, we're the first NFT. It wasn't even in their marketing at the time. It was just kind of a fun fact. But I'm in the audience. He's on the stage. That's what mattered at the time.
Right.
In your wildest dreams at that time, could you ever thought that, that punks would be like the floor would be, what it is today, and you'd be on a show going full circle talking about, how this obviously like this resurgence of this project, I hope, is putting a couple bucks in the artist pockets, and, designers and all you guys that worked very hard on this as well. But, looking kind of like where you're at now, like looking back on it, I mean, could you have ever imagined like we'd be sitting here talking about these as antiques like that?
Yeah, so it'd be yes, no, and yes. So yes, I did believe that punks could be worth as much as they are. It's why we did the NFT project. It just seemed like this is going to be a huge industry. It made a lot of sense to us. No, I didn't think that Curio was necessarily going to come back. I kind of figured that it was just unpopular, and I wasn't valuing that idea of age mattering. I was more just thinking like that, because CryptoPunks and Curio cards are very different. CryptoPunks, they're like a generative art platform. There isn't really an artist. I'm sure like there were obviously artists that put the stuff together, but it's like CryptoPunks by Larva Labs. Whereas we featured all these different artists, independent artists. And I just sort of figured that people didn't really care about that, at least not yet. And by the time they did start caring about that, there were all these new platforms doing it.
It's
there
so
were all these,
interesting
really
that
cool
you
websites.
put it that
and I
way.
figured they're doing the thing. They got the artist market. Yes, we did something earlier, but nobody cared at the time, and that's kind of it. And I wasn't upset because like someone's doing the thing. That's what mattered.
Right.
And then the yes was on the artist being rewarded. I'm actually very proud. We have a royalty on these. If you buy and trade these on OpenSea, there's a 1% fee, and it's 100% split by the 7 artists. I don't get any of it. There's no fund to a marketing team. It all goes to the artists. And that was voted in by the community. We had like 98% agreement on that. We voted with Curio cards. It was super cool. And I'm very proud of that. Yeah. But I can get into more detail on those 3.
Yeah.
When were these initially wrapped? And now they are 1155s?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. 1155 mapped very closely to what we had intended, because we saw these as prints, which there's backstory to that as well. That art show I mentioned that we had done the year before, we had, I think like 5 or 6 artists at that art show. That's kind of a good size. That's why we did 7. And Crypto Graffiti was there, and he had these huge, gorgeous, amazing pieces worth like tons of money that like Jesse Powell, CEO of Kraken, bought, like all of them. And they're there for like whale art investors, right? And then I think it was Coin Artist was there, and they had prints. They had multiple copies of the same artwork selling for like 10, 20 bucks a piece, something like that. And everyone walked out with one of their prints, but only Jesse walked out with Crypto Graffiti's, enormous, cool, really amazing things. We saw that and we're like, we want that. We want to get this in many hands as possible, because we're trying to educate people about how this stuff works. So we did prints. That's why there's 500 of 14, 500 of 15, and we sold them for $1, or 25 cents to $1 was the range. I think one of them was $2. I think 20 was $2, because we experimented with the pricing a lot. But that was because of what we saw the year before. That was the way to get these into as many hands as possible.
Hold on, I wanted to say something real quick too. I didn't mean to interrupt you there, Mayor, but it's interesting. I mean, just what he said, like, you know, the artist aspect of this, because the resurgence of NFTs and like, I mean, a huge cornerstone of like what our mission as a club and a company and, you know, just kind of what we've been doing the last couple of years is supporting artists and using NFTs to support artists, independent makers of video games, you know, basically anybody outside of, you know, the middleman, the corporate realm that's, you know, kind of attached to a lot of things that we consume, right? And that connection, you know, now that NFTs is enabling basically us to go buy stuff that we want because it's cool art, right? And do
And
it
directly from the
from the
artists.
artist.
The vending machines, all the money
Exactly.
that went into the vending machines went to the
Exactly.
artists. All the
Yes.
royalties go to the artists. We envisioned making money as like an ecosystem provider. You know, we would have like an auction house. We'd have these things that we never got to build because there wasn't any interest. And now the only way I can make money is as a holder or a collector like anybody else. But none of the funds on anything sold went to me. It all went to the artists. So you're
The
buying
market
directly
has been
from them.
pretty liquid too. Now we mentioned that. Now I don't know who the original holders are. A lot of these are who the whales are, quote unquote. But we had mentioned like it seems like the community has done a pretty good job making these accessible to people that want to get in now and, you know, be part of this, right?
It really helps when the early holders, like people who bought the cards back in 2017, like I said, we sold them for like $1, right? 25 cents to $2. And after it was March of this year when they were rewrapped and rediscovered and they were trading for like a couple $100, that's 100x, right? If you're one of the old holders,
Right.
that's 100x. And so they sold, right? Everyone got their cards out there. And because the supply is, you know, it's like, I think it was like 27,000 or something like that. So it's like, or 50, I forget. It's a bit more than punks. There's more of these kind of lower common cards.
It's like
There's cards that have a size
12,700, I think.
Yeah, so
12,700.
I think that's what's wrapped, and then it's 27 possible, but
Oh,
a lot of
really?
them are just lost because these are like 4-year-old
Okay.
wallets nobody cared about. They were never worth anything. So it seems like half of them, maybe more,
Mhm.
appear to be lost. But they could come back at any time. But so far,
Right.
there's been no activity. But the ones that are wrapped, you'll have supplies up to like, you know, 2,000 or whatever. And then you have cards that there's only like 100 of them. So you get that full range of prices.
Yeah.
So that helps a lot too. Everyone get their hands on some. Everyone kind of get involved at the lower price or at the higher price. So that really, it creates a lot of trade volume and it creates a lot of liquidity. Those people just dumping. And now the extreme example, there was a card that sold for like $250,000 and that card cost $1 or, you know, something like that. So that's, you know, 250,000x if it was the same person. It wasn't, you know, traded hands, but just that it helps liquidity when you have returns like that. It just, everyone, there's a lot of froth, there's a lot of trading, a lot of action. Yeah.
Yeah. Once you see like the night where these really popped recently, you know, I was like averaging in by averaging in, I mean, recklessly aping in with all of my Ethereum because I'd sat on the stack of Ethereum for like a year. I was into Central Land when it was like just a map. And I sat on all this land for like 2 years. I watched a game develop and then I finally like got out of it and I was sitting on this Ethereum and I was like, I don't want to get back into NFTs. And I was going to buy some punks when they were like 5 ETH and I didn't. And then
you can't get that now.
Yeah, that's long gone. So I'm sitting there.
But you can still get some Curio cards for like $500 or something like that if you get the cheapest one is, or 1,000. That's obviously not everybody has that, but it's a lot easier than 5 ETH. You can't even get that anymore anyway. Yeah.
For what you're getting, they're so undervalued in my opinion still. I mean the lower cards, but when I think it was the 29 went from like 1 Ethereum to like 10 Ethereum. And then I was like, I started picking up Lisa's because I was like, they're like
the clean Lisa. We can't go through the show without saying clean Lisa, man. I love clean Lisa. Like hashtag clean Lisa. Let's go.
And you get that full gambit, right? You got the clean Lisas that sell you know, for an easier accessible price. And you got the 29, which sold for like 100 plus ETH. I really like that. I know I know my job is to go and tell people like, it's all up, these things are worth so much, but I want a low floor for like selfish reasons, because the lower the floor, the more people can get involved. And
Yeah.
the more
That's
holders,
because you
the more
want the
diverse the
community
ecosystem.
involved, right? Because you
Yeah.
care about the community interaction, and I think that's
Yeah.
awesome too.
And you can see that in our Discord. We put a lot of work in the community, because that's what Curio started. That the Curio meant a lot of things. It was curiosity, curated, community, any C word like we meant. We had the Curio card community, the Curio card curation, Curio
See?
card curiosities. We all that stuff mattered to us.
I'm gonna plug you guys
Another
Twitter and website. I know it's on the description, guys. So go out there and go follow them on Twitter. Go out to the website, check this thing out. We're on OpenSea right now. Scrolling through and looking at the gallery. But go out, look at their website, guys. This is beautiful.
So
I love your website too. I was talking about that. I know this is. Again, we're looking at antiques or whatever, but I love how you guys have
that's the 4-year-old website.
right the 4-year-old antique website. But I love how you have your artists clearly laid out. I was very easy to go grab Crypto Graffiti and look through the rest of their artists as well, but then go out to his
It's
website.
Curio.cards, if you want to show that on the screen as well.
Yeah, Curio.cards.
Yeah, the artists are front and center,
Right.
because that's that was the whole point.
And you can go out and just literally, like scroll down a little bit, click on,
We have
an
some cards at
artist.
the top of the fold, just people will know, but it's the very first section after we like, here what the cards look like, but it's the artists. And it is not like here are all 30 cards and you have to find the artists. They're right there. You go to them first.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then if you like go back and then click on Crypto Graffiti, like he got his website, right? Click on his website. He's got a store.
Before you even get to his art, it's all of his links.
Yeah, I like that. I want to incorporate more of that, in our kind of networking too. Just to make sure that we support artists, right? We support
That's where
independent
the
artists.
focus needs to be.
Yeah,
That's where the focus needs to be. That was a big reason why we wanted to do this. We wanted to like the motivation. Bitcoin had a big problem back in 2017. It still kind of does, but it's a lot better now. The big problem is nobody knew what it was. Nobody knew how it worked. It was super complicated.
still a
super
big
weird.
problem, but yeah,
It's still a big problem, but there's just so much resources now. At the time, it's like, hey, we found these brochures that somebody left at an event. Let's hand them out, and it's like really cheesy graphics on it, clip art, and like the explanations were worse than the truth sometimes. There was no Forbes article on how what Bitcoin was and how it worked, right? There wasn't a lot of money in explaining it to people. So the idea is artists can explain things to people. It's what they do. They communicate. That's what, there's the commercial. That's what art is. It's communicating. And if we can get artists involved, they can look at our ecosystem, push the boundaries, understand it, explain it, and then explain it back to us better than I can explain it. And we could totally watch this if you pipe the audio. So yeah, I want them to be front and center, because like that was the whole point. Let's get artists involved and fix this problem.
Yeah. Biff, you want me to roll this?
we don't pipe the audio through there, but we can definitely we'll make a little side like video with this on it, and kind of just like a whole Curio Cards
sure.
promo.
It's on
Get
the
Mike to do
website.
it. I want I
It's
got
a
to
VHS recorded TV commercial kind of vibe to it.
I need to
like
add
this game you can buy.
I need to brand it with GOLDMANN STAXX first, Travis, before we do it. No, but seriously, man, like it's just been so much fun to like go through this and, get your perspective. And, again, I wanted to talk about some of the stuff like pre-Curio cards too, like, how your crew met, like, I know you said it was like forums and, meetups and stuff, but I don't think
it was this.
I don't
It was like
I don't
what
think
you- what
enough
y'all
people
do.
do that, right? Like
Yeah.
it seems like, even when I tell people like they're like, "Hey, what do you do?" They expect me to like try to sell them something. I'm like, "Well, I'm an organizer. I network people together that want to learn and like, collaborate and doing things because of the kind of secular nature of a lot of things, and not just like in cryptocurrency, but like on different blockchains, even in projects, right? There's a lot of competitive nature, which is good. I think it drives innovation, but there's also a lot of just that secular like division. I think, I don't know, what do you maybe your thoughts on that? You've been around a long time,
Absolutely.
so I'd like to kind of get your thoughts on that. And too, like, how you got started, like just way back when too.
Yeah, that the division thing first comment, like it always blows my mind because I understand, like I get why people who have been really into Bitcoin their whole time and have all that history have a problem with some of the Ethereum people, and I understand their grievances, but I don't understand how they could not like each other, because you have so much more in common. It's a group of people who like digital, value transfer, right? Whatever protocol and chain it is, it's just that kind of fascination with the idea of taking this thing that existed, closed source proprietary, Wall Street banks, and let's break that technology open, make it open source, and let anybody interact with it and experiment with it. I just see so much parallel in the goals of the Ethereum community, especially DeFi, loans and interest and, just access to capital, and the initial dream of what Bitcoin was. I kind of see that as the delivery of it. So I'm not going to like force anybody to agree with me on that. But it always blows my mind because there's just so much these communities have in common.
I agree.
And if they just took the time to put some of the jargon aside and just like talk about those ideas, I think they'd find they're all working towards the same thing.
I think
And
sometimes
they really need each other.
yeah, we get lost in social media now too, because you get to see the inside of people's minds like all day long and their thoughts and whatever. And a lot of it's about
And I think like
engagement.
the Ethereum people also need to respect what Bitcoin did. And while Bitcoin maybe isn't doing smart contracts and all that crazy stuff, regulators and institutional investors and getting on the books of large companies, like this stuff's important too. They're both working towards the same goal of this stuff being accepted and powerful.
Yeah, no, I agree. And in a lot of ways, regulation is going to be kind of a hot topic. And again, I think people get
Yep.
scared about regulation.
And Bitcoin's going to be leading the way on the regulation
Yeah,
front.
and
It seems that
I keep telling
that
people
probably wasn't a role they expected they would have, but that's how it's shaking out. They're the ones going after the man right now.
regulation is not something to be scared of. It's the people that are writing the regulation who may or may not be writing it correctly that you have to worry about, or like what they're writing, right? And if they're making decisions and they don't really know what they're talking about, that's what you worry about, not the regulation
And you
itself.
and you look at an organization like Coin Center, which their whole point is to educate lawmakers. And you look at their donors, and it's Bitcoin and Ethereum people. Like they're getting money from everyone. Like you're all working on the same problem.
I like that. I like, when we do the back and forth stuff, I know some of that's for engagement. And again, people see that on Twitter and like whatever, in the bitter, bickering back and forth and stuff. But again, when you say like, instead of just Bitcoin or Ethereum, you're talking about payment systems. It sounds kind of silly, like you're bashing one payment system versus another, because they are very different, right? They're payment networks, right? And they're public payment systems. I mean, that's basically what they are in a nutshell. And when you talk about them like that, it sounds silly, oh, mine's better than yours, or this is better than that, or like faster than this, or whatever. They're tools, right? Like
the more you have in common, the more you notice the differences,
right?
And then you can fight over those differences. Like if you have a Bitcoin and an Ethereum person in a room, and they're like debating proof of work over proof of stake, like Ethereum's goal, right? And they're really getting into it about why this is superior and why that isn't, and what the flaws are and all the issues. Everyone else in the room has no idea what they're talking about. Nobody understands what either of those things are. All the vocabulary they're using, all the esoteric ideas, all the concepts, they share all of that. And if they kind of looked at each other as like, well, we're trying it this way, we're going to see what happens, and you're trying that way, and we'll learn from each other, which was how it started. Forking is healthy in open source. Like in open source outside of crypto, just open source. When if someone there's Debian Linux, right, and then Ubuntu forked off that, and they learned so much from each other, and it was a very healthy outcome. Like, well, forking is healthy.
Well, we talk about that all the time, and we say blockchain agnostic, and I don't think people know what that. It's like a big word, fancy saying like, we don't really care.
Talking that you're doing, they're just hanging out and just talking about this stuff. That's how I got started.
Yes.
It was at
tell us. A Bitcoin event.
Bitcoin meetup event. It was, the Bitcoin event, right? Like I'm obviously very agnostic. and in a lot of ways very Ethereum these days. But that's what it was, right? Bitcoin started it. So the San Francisco Bitcoin Meetup Group, or San Francisco Bitcoin Social, is like the oldest, longest continuously running crypto meetup in the world. At one point, it was the largest, and I had the fortune of living near where the events were, so I could just go over. And I didn't really understand crypto until I showed up at these events and talked to people about it. You could read about it online, but I didn't really understand it until I just talked to people about it. And what you're doing, right? Like you could read something and have an idea of it, but you try to explain it to someone and say, like, wait, actually, hold on. I didn't quite understand it the way I thought I did.
Or
'Cause that
even
question you
sometimes
asked, I don't know the
writing.
answer.
Yeah, even sometimes
Yeah.
writing, we
Mhm.
end up writing things and we go down these rabbit holes
Mhm.
and we get too technical, and then it, you get
Mhm.
20 seconds of people's time now, and it's just,
Mhm.
things move so fast too. But continue. I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
That's exactly right, though, right? Like if you want to learn something and understand it, talk to your friends about it, assuming they want to talk about it. And that's what we did. So we met at the meetup group because my regular friends didn't necessarily care about crypto, but I go to a meetup event and everyone cares about crypto. So
And you can
one
talk
of the events
crypto
that
with people that understand crypto.
hours,
And like we were
yeah,
talking about before the show, you don't have to explain all this stuff for an hour or two and then lose them or them think you're crazy before you even start a conversation. You can
Mhm.
go to a crypto meetup and everybody's on the same playing field, or at least
And
has
they
an
ask me
idea.
questions back. They
Right.
tell me things that I don't know, right? Where I'm not just teaching, I'm learning. And you're an event all evening, and then afterwards, like we're gonna go get food, and then it's like we're gonna go to, and you're like it's hours of just like hanging out with this group that way into the night. And there was an event called El Rio, Proof of Drink, which was every like the first or second Thursday of the month. We'd go to El Rio, and that was my favorite event because there was no speaker, there was no like catering, there was no event space, there was no like all this work that we had to do. We had a bar tab. We paid the bar tab in Bitcoin from our sponsors. Like Coinbase was a sponsor, Kraken was a sponsor, like whatever. And it was free drinks. And you just sit at the table in the back. It's a beautiful outdoor dining area and talk about crypto with people. And
Man, that
I
could get rowdy
learned
with some of
everything I
our
know.
crew. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
Travis, like that's very
Oh yeah.
dangerous.
There was somebody got banned from the meetup group. There was like cops were called
No,
once.
I can imagine.
It was an extreme example. I was the only person ever banned from the group, and we did let them back in after they apologized.
A
They don't
STAXX
believe in
meeting,
banning,
open
but
bar. Can you imagine, Doc? Like, I don't know, dude. That could get a little rowdy. We might have to have some security.
Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers.
that was my favorite event, and that's how I learned everything I know about crypto. I learned it, and that's me, Tom, and Rhett first talked about Curio cards at El Rio.
Very cool.
Now, you talked about Mount Gox and stuff too, and kind of like that's when, like, obviously, we're talking about what, like 10 years ago,
Yeah, when was Mount Gox? 14, 13?
I think
I'll look it up.
14.
Yeah, at least, we're talking a while ago. We'll put it that way. So, prior to that, you had heard of Bitcoin, but, weren't really
2014.
into it. And that's when you started, investing, or like kind of how did you, get your, your feet wet, so to speak?
Yeah, I for the longest time I thought I got in at exactly the wrong moment. And just as a lesson to anybody here, was like, man, I bought a coin a week ago or an NFT because there was this huge rally a few weeks ago, right? And now it's all down. I bought right before the Mt. Gox hack happened. Was the first time I ever bought crypto. Somebody paid me in crypto like a couple years before that, but I'd completely forgotten that story.
Like you had a
It's
Coinbase
unrelated.
wallet, or like what was your, preferred?
I was doing like IT consulting, and the person like paid me like $60 in Bitcoin, and I sold it immediately, and I'd never thought about it again. So that doesn't count, but like that happened, and I sold it on Second Life, because that was like where you could sell Bitcoin, was on Second Life. I sold it for Linden dollars. But yeah, 2014, I buy it right before, so it's at like $900. So it went up to like 1,000 for the first time. It spiked. Like that was a huge run up right before Mt. Gox got hacked, and it hit like 1,200 or something, and then just cratered for 2 years. So I buy it like 980, and then it craters to like $100 to $200 range for 2 years straight.
And that's when you're asking
Um,
yourself, what did I,
yeah.
is this, yeah. And you know what? Everyone does it too. And the people went through the same thing in this 17 cycle, and they didn't have Travis there to tell them, hey, pat you on the back. It's
Yeah.
okay, man. Just hang in there. You know,
And
some
that was
people had to
another
figure
like
that out
2
for
year.
themselves.
It
Yeah.
was like a year and a half or a year. It was a shorter cycle, and now we have like a bear and a bull cycle every couple of months. It feels like.
Right.
But that 2 years of me just having to like convince myself that this was still the right thing to care about.
Yep.
That was the event. I would go to the meetup events, and that helped just talk to people who actually know what they're talking about and realize that nothing's changed. This is still cool. It's still open source software.
The
And you know,
that's what I
USD
liked about it.
the USD value is the
Yeah.
USD value, but again, what's happening to the United States dollar right now is a whole separate conversation. So,
And there's
obviously,
price and there's value,
Right.
right? There's the value of the technology and the ideas and the assets and the art, and then there's the price of the assets and the art and the ideas, and they don't always agree, but the price will chase value.
we talk about that with our community a lot, and
Mhm.
you know how a lot of times it's just best to be around when something's early, and whether or not you're catching an actual USD value in it right away, like you said, the value is there in the technology, value is there
Yeah.
in the code, and
don't don't worry about what price you get exposed to. It's so volatile. You're never going to buy the right price. I have, and like the only time I ever bought the right price was when I was doing dollar cost averaging, and I bought the same amount every day.
I do it
some
once
of
a
those
week
days were
now.
the best price.
Yeah, I
we
literally
talk
do
about
once a
that
week.
all the time too. We talk about that all the time.
But besides that, there's no way you'll buy at the right price. It's not possible, and the market doesn't care what price you buy at. That's your data point. I go on CoinGecko, I don't see Biff bought here. Like, nobody cares.
Right.
No one cares when you got in either. We say that all the time. You know,
Yeah.
people talk, about when they got in. It's like no one gives a damn when you got in, dude. Like, what are you doing today, or what have you done, or what have you, like, what is your part in the community? What have you done, right?
And if you love what that community's doing, get some at whatever prices. Just get some exposure or whatever you can, and then just it's the long game at that, because you're not going to get the right price. There is no such thing.
What were you going to say, Mayor?
I bought Matic at a penny.
Would that have anything to do with your name?
That's when he became the mayor. Well, he told all of us he was doing it too.
Create a whole identity around it, but
and you were poking.
And I've had a couple of those, and I've had the opposite too. Like I have also lost a lot of money at crypto as well, and I want to normalize that too. If one of your audience members is like, "Oh, these guys talk about all this money they made," we're maybe not talking about when we lose money, but I have lost a lot of money.
I talk about it a lot, and we
talk
about that stuff too, because
that's how we all really met. Me, Biff, and Doc. I got into Bitcoin not at the exact top, but I didn't sell the top, and I wrote it down, and I wrote a lot of altcoins to zero through 2018, and then it was just like
all the ICO tokens.
Yep. So I traded like a third of my Bitcoin into ICO tokens at the top, and took a bath on that, and then crypto Twitter was like a ghost town, and it was just like all the like degenerates just like cracking jokes about how poor we were for 2 years, and then
which was a lot of fun too.
And all the Bitcoin people being right in that moment, right? Like when all the ICOs crashed, all the Bitcoin people were like, "Told you," and they were right. I remember like Civic was one of like the really big ICOs, and I remember this one very clearly because we had the guy who did Civic, Vinny Lingham. He had been spoken at our event a few months before or something unrelated, or no, I think maybe it was for Civic. And I remember like we got up at 5 a.m. or like 4, like really early to wait in line for the privilege to give Vinny money. Try to find a Civic token now,
Well, he's a celebrity then too, and there's still a lot of the OG quote unquote celebrity status people around, but honestly, I'm not sure some of those are the greatest influences, and some of them are still and doing some great things in their own communities too.
The influencers I like now are developers. I follow if you want to like find that kind of long-term consistent delivery of cool ideas. the project you love, yeah, sure, like follow the people, the hype men for it, follow people talk about it, follow me if it's Curio, but also follow the developers on that project. Like I don't just follow, and it's really great when the founder's also like a developer, like Uniswap or Sushi Swap. A lot of those guys are developers as well. That's when you'll really kind of get the full story, because they're not just talking about what's popular that week, or they're talking about their work, what they show up every day to do.
It's
that slog, that constant push.
It's also not just
that's what you want to be hearing.
It's also not just art. It's not just these projects. It's video games now, right? Some of our favorite developers are developing their own video games, and they're on blockchain.
That's the creators, right? I say follow the developers. That's my old advice. I should expand that. Follow the creators.
Yes.
So for us, that's the artists, right?
Yep.
So follow all the artists. Most of them have Twitter presences.
One of the things we talk about all the time is to really put your backing behind real people who are building real things within the community.
That's becoming our motto pretty quickly,
really
actually.
Yeah,
it really is.
Crypto Graffiti, Robeck, Marisol Angus, the artwork right here, they're extremely prolific. I lost
prolific.
Prolific, yeah. They're extremely prolific, and they make a lot of stuff. So yeah, see what they're up to.
I've definitely already just kind of skipped around their sites too. I want to definitely just like keep tabs on you guys, see what you're doing out there. We have an event coming up in Miami in November that I would love to invite you guys to if you can make it. That's just called the Crypto Experience, which is like a festival now, with entertainment and music and games and art, and man, this is in our wheelhouse. So, we're sponsoring that. Super excited to get involved with those. Again, that's ground floor. So if you're watching this right now, or you're, listening, right, there's people forming, right, creating communities, networking all over the place right now. Figure it out. If it's not our group,
find
or
communities.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
if it's not Curio, if it's not us, find somebody.
I'm very proud of the community that we've created. I'm very proud of our Discord. But if that's not your thing, like find someone else. I don't care who you. It's that quote, in Firefly, Serenity. Doesn't matter who you believe in, just believe. I don't care if it's me. I don't care if it's Curio. Find your community. Talk to people about it.
I just watched Serenity again. It's funny that you said that.
It's people like you, Travis, that have laid the foreground for what we're doing today. We use Wax blockchain a lot through Goldman STAXX. We chose to use Wax just because of the ease of entry for most.
So Marisol Angus, cards 27, 28, 29 uses Wax a lot as well.
Yeah. We like it for the ease of use. For us, it's a good way to introduce new artists as well. Who are looking to get into minting NFTs. You've got a little bit more margin for error. It's a little
less eyes on you. Yeah.
Well, like you were saying too, Ethereum gas prices has gotten out a little out of control, and that's a whole.
Yeah, from a cost effective.
There's a lot of great places to try out NFTs on. Like there's obviously Wax. There's also just like a crap ton of Ethereum forks. A friend of mine actually just made like an OpenSea NFT store on this chain called Ubiq, which is
I know Ubiq. I'm a miner. Like I used to GPU mine, Ubiq used to be like one of the things we were mining all the time.
I don't know if I should say this because they're just in soft launch right now, but they just launched their website today or yesterday. It's token.gallery, and it's NFTs on Ubiq, and it's dirt cheap. I bought a couple. You can look at my store, my collection.
We got a lot of people watching that are definitely interested in that, Travis. So I'm glad that you mentioned it.
Yeah, that's cool. Let's see, how do the user tokens galleries work?
I mean, it's not just Ubiq too. So, we're into Engine, right? And they've got JumpNet Affinity, and we love a lot of the developers and games and things they're doing with those software development kits, making it easier for developers to build games with, player-based economies and using, the distributed ledger for loot systems. Like, that's so awesome.
And this is just such an easy way to get involved as an artist, because once you connect, there's a create button, and you hit the create button, upload your artwork, and you make an NFT, and it's super cheap. It's easy. They're really easy to buy. it's just, and everything you do here, it works on Ethereum. So um,
Very cool.
I love these kind of like other networks as a place to get started.
I'm so glad
Yeah,
you shared that because
absolutely.
I had not seen this before, and I
It's
am
brand new.
all
It came
over
out
this.
yesterday, I believe, or
Wow.
today. I forget. I'll have to let them know that I plugged it.
Plugged them.
Yeah.
The guy who made this earlier, Mayor, you were showing the leaderboard. It's the same person who made the leaderboard website on Curio cards.
Oh, cool.
Oh yeah, the leaderboard on Curio cards.
Mhm.
Right on.
Yeah. And the back end for this, the Solidity, well, the Ubic version of it was made by the person who made our wrapper.
Very cool.
So it's a couple of Curio people as well. This is their other project, and it's a lot of fun thing to.
I'm pretty
it's a fun
sure I
thing to
got a
make
whole
on a network.
whole stack of Ubic sitting somewhere from like I used to mine
you
in
go.
2017. So I'm about to get
Now-
I'm
now-
about to
now
dust
you
off
got
that
a
Ubic
market.
wallet. Heck yeah, man.
Yeah, now you got to market.
So real quick, Travis, I got a quick question for you. When for you, did you feel validated in the project? Because I know for you, your goal for success was not monetarily motivated. So
Mhm.
for me, I want
Great
to know
question.
where you felt validated with your project, because it, like I said before, you know, with what we do with STAXX, you know, talking to someone like you who's a pioneer in the industry and someone who's laying foreground for, you know, what we're doing today, it's important for us to know, you know, where that validation comes from.
Yeah, I mean, we thought it could make money, but we didn't take a cut up front because that wasn't the primary goal.
Right.
So that goal was to find a way to give like an artist a place to go and feel like that's gonna have value. If collectors and artists both really love that, then we'll figure out a way to turn that into a business. But the goal was this thing actually has to, for real, deliver value to artists. And at the time, every other project was an ICO. And that was like,
Right.
you're buying a bunch of tokens that are a promise to be a thing one day. And it's like, the token I'm selling you is the thing. Here's artwork. You're buying it directly.
You're buying it real art.
The money goes to the artists. Like, value is happening. We're done here. Like that's the promise is delivered the moment you hit buy. So the validation has come with all the cards selling out. Once all the vending machines filled up, all that funds were distributed to the artists. And when we voted on the fee for the artists, and that passed so resoundingly, it was like 98%. It was a huge margin. And that was people voting to take money out of their own pocket, because the people voting are curio collectors. They're the people who own the cards. They're voting with their cards. I don't know if that's the first time people voted with NFTs, but anyway, they were voting with their cards, and the vote was to tax themselves. You know, who votes for that? And they did, because they agreed that the artists are the entire reason why these things exist, right? Why this project exists. So 1% of all these fees go to the artist. So that was extremely validating when that vote passed. And the wrapper was really hard, and we can talk about like what that is. It's how Curio cards are on OpenSea. Curio cards are older than OpenSea, so they're not compatible. So a wrapper, it's like taking the card and literally wrapping it inside another card. It's like putting it into a collector's sleeve. And
so it's like a
that
shell.
sleeve now works in the binder of OpenSea. So because of the wrapper, it works. And it was a lot of work. So this is the wrapper UI. And it was a lot of work to build this thing. A lot of people spent a lot of time on it. It was like 6 or 7 people working on this thing for like 2 or 3 weeks straight. And that never would have happened without, because we technically could have done this at any point, but there was no reason to until people really started desperately caring about Curio again. And they were like, we bought a bunch of cards. We want to make this happen.
When was this? Yeah.
This.
When do you put a date on that?
Yeah.
So like March
or
this year?
March. Yeah.
Okay.
March this year was when it was rediscovered. And it was a really intense, stressful period getting this thing built, but it was super validating because there were a room full of people who really cared about it. And that was definitely the first big like moment we were successful.
We're like getting the band back together. That's what we were talking about. Like, I wonder, like,
we got all the artists together. We got all the old crew together. The people who worked on this website helped us in 2017. They're close friends of mine. They're people that I've worked with before. They're people I love working with. I owe them so much for all the work they put into this. And it was extremely validating to be able to make this happen 4 years later.
So just in layman's terms, like how does this work? So I mean, you said like it's in a shell, but I mean, so you have your actual, tokenized asset, and then it's wrapped in a shell, right? Is how it kind of are wrapped. But like, is that a function of the blockchain? Is that something that, I plug this in here, it does something in my wallet and then transfers it through like a portal, or like how does that work?
So it's a new token contract, an
Okay.
ERC 1155 token contract that was launched in March or whatever. And the way it works is you have to give it an original authentic Curio card from 2017 in order for it to, respond to you. So you're like, here I have a number 8 from 20, an original number 8, and it says, great, give me that number 8, and I will hold it in the vault, and I will issue a new number, a wrapped number 8 in representation of it. And this one will work on OpenSea. And at any point, you can bring that back to me, and I will release the original back to you. So it's actually like one really big wrapper, wrapping all the cards up and then handing, like a reference to it is like the literal like technical thing happening. But the easiest way to think about it is really like it's a token with a token inside of it. Because that is what's happening. The smart contract is holding all the tokens, and the smart contract also has the ledger of who owns the new tokens, and you can unwrap at any time. So it really is like, it's like putting it in a sleeve, it's a token inside of a token. And that exterior token is a fully modern compliant standard that didn't exist when, Curio was like the first art NFT token, right? So it's not a standard that's used today. And OpenSea does not support it. It was just a one-off project, right? So we had to do that wrapper to make it work on OpenSea.
Now is
and that's so important.
One of the crew like
trade.
your smart contract expert, or is that, like you had mentioned that you're more of like a front end web developer, like is that like you guys all had your strengths?
Yeah, I worked on the front end stuff from the 2017 project. I didn't do the front end for the wrapper. I was more in like the just trying to get everything together. Like it was just like a lot was going on.
You were playing the ukulele. We got it. Yeah.
The coordinator.
Yeah. In March, I was.
Yeah, Doc.
I don't want to say like it was like herding cats, but everyone was really amazing and really great. Exactly, so it wasn't like herding cats. It was like working with a lot of. It was a team of like 6 or 7 people, and I had to get auditor and all that stuff. So I was just kind of like trying to just project manage it, which is weird because I've never been a project manager before. So the programmers can focus on programming. So the front end to this wrapper and the code to this wrapper were made by the same people who worked on Token Gallery, and that's my friend Kian and Moon. And Moon and Kian also worked on Curio back in 2017.
So they were Kian familiar with the project, and
Kian made the first Curio Cards wallet, and I'm blanking right now on but Moon was also a friend of Robeck's, and he got Robeck involved, and he would do like IPFS host nodes and things like that as well.
While we're on the subject, right? And now you guys are, in the middle of this resurgence of this collection. And again, we can look at anything specific if you guys want to look at anything, or if you have any questions, or if you want to talk, pricing and that sort of thing. But I'm having more fun, kind of just like looking at this at a 50,000 foot level. But it's really fun to like hear this full circle. And the question I guess I have is, now that you're here looking, back, and you've got the band back together, you had to like collaborate to get this stuff to work on OpenSea. Are you guys talking about doing something else, or are you going to just work on Curio cards and that's it? Or you got something else going, or what are you guys talking about?
For like me personally, I had actually just quit my job right when Curio happened. And the coincidence of it seems like I knew that Curio was being rediscovered, but I had put my 2 weeks notice in, 2 weeks before. And I kind of uncharacteristically, I tweeted out, on my last day, I tweeted out, just quit my job, excited about what happens next. And I generally don't really tweet about my personal life too much, but it just felt right because my goal was I was going to become a learner again. I was going to learn Solidity. I was going to learn Web3. I want to be able to build something like that wrapper, right? I want to be able to build something like the leaderboard. And I was going to focus on that. 2 hours after I posted that tweet, someone by the name of Die Aping, and I didn't know at the time, I didn't find out till like the next day, but 2 hours after I posted that I was quitting my job, Die Aping posted a tweet saying, hey, I found this thing called Curio cards. And that was like the first public official, that was when the rediscovery happened. Die Aping and like Harry BTC and a couple other people had like a Telegram group, really like doing what you guys do. You know, they a group of friends hanging out, talking about crypto stuff. And they had this goal of like, let's find the oldest NFT. and they went hunting for it, which is why it's so valuable. I for the longest time, I couldn't confidently say Curio cards is the first art NFT because it's so hard to prove something like that.
Right.
I only know about the ones I know about, right? It's the
We
first
even
of all
say
the ones I
that
know
the
about.
ones that we know about, you know, you kind of got to put that frame on things.
Yeah. So like it's like proving a negative, you know, like it works until somebody says, well, there was this other one a day before, like, and oh yeah, I didn't know about that one, never mind. And I don't want to be like a liar until I get that information. So I wouldn't really say it. I kind of suspected, but I couldn't really say it. But Die Aping and Harry BTC, they knew nothing about Curio cards. They came at it from the complete other direction. And they did all sorts of crazy archaeology and they found Curio cards. And the really cool thing was they could have just drained the they could be like, they found something. They knew that it was valuable.
They got the find.
Moon cats had just happened.
They dug it up. Yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't like maybe people care about this. They knew people cared about this because Mooncats had just happened. Punks was going crazy and everyone was searching for these old NFTs and they found it. They found the one. They could have bought all the unsold cards and then sat on the pile and controlled the market. Instead, they bought some to try it out. And then they wrote a guide up explaining how to buy them because you had to like you had to work with the contract directly. I had taken all the links down. I had all the card information up, but I removed all the vending machines because like, you know, we were shut down. And they reverse engineered the whole thing, looking at all the
so cool
and stuff.
We gotta include them in the story. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
because this is becoming a legend quickly. By the way. Yeah,
and that energy that they brought to it too, of like not just buying them all, but like saying we want to share this. We got some, and here's how you do it. That is like exactly the community energy that I always wanted.
Yeah.
So I was like, the fact that you had this clean, beautiful rediscovery to go with what our aspirations when we did it in 2017 to be this very like art value focused thing is absolutely amazing. And I'm like forever thrilled that that's how it went down. And I posted my tweet and then I went to sleep, you know, the next day I wake up and I have, you know, maxed out the Twitter notifications and I have never gotten more than like 3 Twitter notifications at any given point. And I had no idea what was going on.
And what was it like? Just the original, like people were starting to buy them again. You started to see them disappearing, or what? Like a bulk amount of them.
It was just everyone. There was this Adam McBride. He's the podcaster. He was also kind of on this quest to find the oldest NFTs, and he reached out to everyone involved. He contacted all of the artists and he contacted all of the team, you know, me, Tom, and Rhett. And he was just reaching out to everyone. And so it was messages from him. It was messages from all the people who had found Curio cards. And they're like, how do I sell these on OpenSea? And people just like, what is this project? Who are you? You know,
that's on there.
Why do we not know about this? Why did you not say anything? And I'm like, I've been talking about it, but nobody seemed to care. Adam McBride.
It's just
I have
Adam.
him as
You
a
had
friend, but I can't. Oh, I
had
didn't see it.
Yeah,
I know I follow him.
Let me
He
interject
changed
real quick.
his name to like Adam. Oh, there it is.
Right
Adam
there.
McNifty.
Oh yeah. Oh, he
Second
changed
guy.
his. He was a dog. That's why I couldn't find him. I was looking for that dog.
Yeah.
So real quick,
So
one of the
he was a
things-
big part of it. The next morning, because I had no idea what was going on, I learned about the Curio cards rediscovery by reading Adam's thread explaining what was happening. So like he had to tell me about Curio cards. He knew more about. There was a good period of time where he knew more about the project than I did.
That's funny. Let me interject real quick. One of the things that, you know, from my side of this, like Biff said, you know, I like to try to look at things from above and see it from a broader spectrum. And since I've been involved in NFTs and you know, delving into these different communities and learning about, the different blockchains that offer these NFTs, it, one common theme that I see across the board is that for the most part, these communities are very involved as far as like the people that are collecting, the people that are, creating. Everyone works in unison. It's a very well, like we say over and over. This is the most fun most of us have had since we've been involved in crypto. Um,
Hmm.
being involved in these communities is amazing. It's great to see the support across the board, especially when you get into these Discord communities, into the Telegram communities, where you really get to dive into supporters of individual projects. Over the last few months, I know I've seen my Discord channel grow like literally exponentially, trying to
Yeah.
keep up with everything. And especially with the avatar boom, I know that's been a big thing lately.
Hmm.
Which we may be in a bubble on that, we may not be. Especially with metaverses developing, and with like we do with blockchain gaming, trying to push that whole avenue. We're on the verge of literally being able to interact online like we've seen in the movies, or like we've seen and like we've thought about possibly interacting online. I really do think we're on the cusp of everybody having a personal wallet that's attached to their online avatar, and eventually being able to move around online, whether it's shopping, whether it's interacting in a game, whether it's literally just being in a social atmosphere. I really think we're on the cusp of that point where everything interacts together. And you guys laying the foreground for NFTs, these other blockchains taking it and running with it from there. It's really offering all of us a new opportunity in life to be able to interact in a different way.
Hmm. Yep. Yeah.
So
And you see people use these as their avatars, right? Uh, and yeah, I completely agree. Like the community part is so important, especially when you don't even know where it's going to go. Like when I first started going to the Bitcoin meetup group, I didn't think like, man, I'll keep going to these and I'll meet friends and we'll create a project and it'll not do well. And then 4 years later, it'll do really great.
You had a
And
show
then I'll
talking
make
about
money.
it.
And like, no, I'm just like, I have no idea. There's no expectation of profit. I'm just asking
right.
questions and hanging out with friends. When
I
you
think
join a
that's a great
community
point.
and contribute, even if there's like, you don't know how that's going to pay off for you, uh, at least with my experience, it does, because you form connections, you learn about things, you create understanding, and just showing up and contributing. Um, that's I got into this originally through open source software. I was really big in like Linux meetup events. I really liked the open source software, and I'd go to those and I would help people install Linux on their laptops, and there was no expectation of return, but it led me to where I am now.
Where
Just
have
showing
you
up and
been my whole
contributing.
life, man? Like I could have really used you a few years ago, like from my mining
Install
rigs.
fests,
My
yeah,
goodness, man.
we would do install fests. People would show up with their Lenovo's, their laptops, and like some burnt Ubuntu CDs, and um, we would help them install Linux.
Very cool.
I can take it a step further. So I, kind of just jumped into the NFT bandwagon when I was gaming. So I'm a huge gaming nerd.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that helps me put it in perspective for people lately is kind of backing up to Nintendo and just saying, like, if you had played Nintendo, in your adolescent career or in childhood or whatever, and you had a wallet then, right? Today, you'd have every item and every game that you've ever played in Nintendo. And not only would you still have them today, they'd have some sort of value, right? You could trade them, or like things are going to be in the future, you could actually use them in other platforms, right? Which is going to be like this interoperability thing, cross chain, that you can already see happening in these metaverses, like I mean,
Hmm.
literally what's
Yeah.
being built on the internet and inside the internet right now, unless you're unless you have a perspective into it, you can't put like there's no goggles big enough to like see what's going on right now. And
And
we talk
all
about
this
that.
stuff tracks into that, right? Like
Yes.
it could take years before we have these big, amazing, immersive virtual worlds that use all this technology, but it's all going to link back to this. You'll be able to bring your cards in there. You'll be able to bring your avatars in there. You'll be able to bring everything in there and give it properties,
What we
and
keep talking about
it's all the
too
same
is get in there.
technology.
Yeah, get in there and participate. If you find something that you like and you're enjoying
Mhm.
it, then enjoy it and have fun. Because honestly, as soon as
Yep.
as soon as it becomes a job or you're like trading or something becomes, demanding and it becomes not fun anymore, then you burn yourself out and the whole thing's, you know, worthless at that
And
point.
you're not learning, you're not following the arc
It's
of
wasted
innovation anymore.
energy.
You're not, yeah.
Yes.
This stuff, it's that idea of like, oh, I'm too late, right? Oh, I missed it, well, Bitcoin's, 46, $1,000, Ethereum's $3,000. Like, oh, I've missed it. None, it hasn't, like, has it done the thing yet? Right? Like, has the financial sector been replaced by DeFi? Is all art NFT, our games built on
Nowhere
NFTs? Like,
near.
none of it, we haven't done either. So two outcomes, right? Either we don't do it, it fails, or it becomes, or does it, right? Does everything. And the way in which it turns into that thing, no, we don't know. When Bitcoin came out and it was just the white paper and then like some basic code, uh, no one knew how it would be. You could look at it and be like, this is powerful technology. It'll be useful in some way, but you couldn't predict DeFi. You couldn't predict NFTs. You couldn't really see how this was going to become what it is.
And
Doesn't that
And
you can't predict acceptance either.
we talked about
yeah,
that. We talk about that a
what
lot.
ideas people like and what ideas people don't, and what ideas play and what don't, and what are useful and what isn't. Um,
But that
but if
isn't
you're
that what
in it,
makes some of this really
if you
exciting
find the
too?
thing, yeah, because if you find the thing you like and you're in it and you're showing up and working with them, you're gonna figure out that path before everybody else does, who's just on the outside waiting to be told.
That's what we were saying too. There's no guarantees for anybody designing anything or in
Mhm.
cryptocurrency or whatever. If you're looking for guarantees, this is probably not for you because, like you were saying, like we're trying to normalize things like
The
not just
apple's a guarantee.
yeah, the Apple's a
But
guarantee. This is
even
financial
that,
advice. You
right?
heard it
But
there.
even that, like Apple, the wildly successful Apple, spent 4 years as a failure
There you go.
Yeah.
with
There you
no
have
hope
it.
of redemption at the time.
Yeah.
There was no, like, I wasn't thinking like, oh yeah, but this is going to come back. I really
Yeah.
thought we missed it.
Well,
I thought
like you
people are doing
said,
it now and they're doing a great job, and everyone's just going to care about the new versions doing great jobs. All these platforms like Foundation and Rarible and OpenSea, and and they're doing it, and that's great. And the artists can go there, and nobody cared about the first attempt.
Yeah.
well, and like you said, you had ultimately shut down the vending machines.
Mhm.
You thought pretty much you had missed the boat on as far as monetary gain
Yeah,
and
but the
moving forward
ecosystem
that
hadn't
way.
met. It was neat. Like, what I loved was that
Exactly.
the idea didn't fail. There were
Exactly.
dozens of platforms doing. People would show up in the Curio Discord. Sometimes I have no idea how they found it. People would show up in the Curio Discord and be like, "Hey, I want to like launch as an artist," and I'd be like, "It's been 2 years. We're not doing that. But like, here, go on Maker's Place, go on Foundation, go on Rarible, Zorro. Like, there's all these amazing places that you can do what you want to do." Um, and more of them launching every day. Like Token Gallery just launched yesterday.
Yeah.
So like it was happening, but it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't Apple, and so it had failed, and yet it didn't. So yeah, there's no guarantees. You don't know what's going to hit and what isn't, but you just keep showing up.
I can
I haven't done nothing those 4 years. I've gotten really involved in other things. I've joined other
Exactly. You
communities.
kept
right.
There's
building.
other
And
projects that I
building and
love.
learning, right?
I've
Exactly.
been a part of the governance process on other communities. I've suggested ideas and like seen proposals get made, um, and I'm very proud of all that.
As soon as we start
As you
going
should
down
be.
the rabbit hole of like, taking money out of corporations' pockets and stuff, I'm gonna get it all fired up and we'll go another 2 hours here. So
Yeah.
maybe we should just stay focused, on the collection. I know we're already running long here, and I appreciate your time, and I'd really like to have you on again because this is a blast. I love talking like this. Is there something in the collection that you guys wanted to look at, something you wanted to talk about, Travis? Do you have favorites in there? You know, Mayor, is there something you wanted to ask, you know, just like
Well,
while we're
the
looking at the collection?
22 is clearly the best card, first
22.
of all, in terms of favorites.
Oh yeah, of course. The best looking guy with the ukulele. Got it.
And it's the only one that has the number on the other side.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's
Whoa.
unique. Oh, look
Mhm.
at him. Yep.
And it's
the
the only
value just went
one
up.
that
There
has a
it
ukulele.
goes.
I have a question about the artist distribution, and I don't know if you know the answer to this, but I was curious when I was looking at these, like, does, like, for example, I know a lot of the artists have cards, or they all have cards, I'm assuming. Does Crypto Graffiti have mostly Crypto Graffiti cards? Was there like a chunk that was like thrown to everybody, or like people sitting a lot on their own cards, or did they ever receive their own cards, or what was the initial distribution and then like the redistribution, I guess I would ask.
So when we were doing this, it was big ICO time, and all the ICO projects had their pie chart. You know, they all had every single one is like, you know, 80% community crowd sale, 10% investors, 5% team, or it was usually like 30% team. We didn't want to be an ICO. We wanted to sell art. So there was no distribution pie chart. There was no like percentage goes to the team, percentage goes to the artist. It was like all the cards are created and they're all available for sale at 25 cents to $2. It was like $1 range average. All of the artists have their cards. I made sure of it because in like March when it was rediscovered, if I had the card, I would donate to the artist. And other people donated cards. People, a lot of generosity in the community. So all the artists got at least one of their cards through those donations. And some of them were also collectors back in 2017 because they knew about Curio cards, right? Like they were there, they were showing up at the meetings, they were watching the live stream that we would do. And there weren't a lot of people that knew about it. You know, there were one of our artists, Robeck, was our #1 fan. He was the #1 person in the Discord, you know,
a lot of intra-community support.
Yeah. So people were buying art from, so like Robeck would buy other artists' work to support them because the cards weren't really selling, right? And then they buy his work. So it wasn't a guarantee. Like, I don't want to get into personal details, but there's one of the artists I'm pretty sure didn't buy any of the other cards. Then there was no, like, you know, guarantee, like you have to be a collector as well. But the money from the card sales went to the artists, and then the 1% royalty all goes to the artists. So they are still monetarily rewarded. Whether or not they have cards or not is kind of their choice. The same way whether or not I have cards or not was my choice. I had to go buy every card. There was no like cut just for me or cut for the team.
Right on.
I think it's probably that first one, Robeck World.
Is this him? Okay.
I'm guessing. I don't want.
You guys got to
looks
stop
like him.
changing your avatars because I get used to one avatar.
He changes his avatar. Robeck changes his avatar every day. It's insane.
I know
he's putting on a new Rolex.
I know he's got a lot of cards because I always see him on the order books when I was picking up the Lisas specifically.
So he had a bunch of Curios because he was supporting other artists at the time. And what he did, which I think is totally cool, is he knows the art market, right? He knows NFTs.
Right.
So he took money made from Curio and he supported other artists. The same thing he did in 2017. So he now has like an absolutely incredible collection of NFT artwork because he just every dollar he makes, he invests in other artists, more or less. I mean,
that's
so
awesome.
He has a really amazing collection. If you want to see like a really great collection of amazing artists, scroll through Robeck's holdings. That's
what I was looking at his wallet initially. Oh wow, he's got the 25. And it's funny watching how some of these guys list them like, you know, they're staggering their asks and then, you know, they're just scaling out. But it's also interesting, like, the spread on some of these is tremendous. Like you can see, like, you know, the floor is here, but then essentially like the highest, like,
but the market actually wants to, so there's like a 7.75 ETH difference there. There's some disagreement as to what this card's worth.
Right. So if somebody comes in and they want to liquidate, you know, they don't move the floor, but they sell into this guy. And then it's really ironic to me that, you know, these are like, I was using the term semi-fungible. I'm not going to claim that like I created that or anything, but I was saying like a big draw for me is that these are like semi-fungible because, you know, when you look at this and you look at this spread, like, you know what, you know, everybody gets this offer. When this guy makes this offer, if you hold the apple, you have the offer.
It's
And
another great thing for the liquidity. It makes it a lot easier to trade them. And that was like the baseball card, Magic the Gathering card idea. You know, if I go into a comic book store and I'm selling Magic cards, you know, it doesn't matter what print number it is. So we didn't put print numbers on them. We wanted them to be like prints, but we really wanted to be like baseball, like they're cards, you know?
Right.
We wanted to be like baseball cards. We wanted them to be like collectible trading cards. You know, like I could have my stack deck, you have your deck, and we we trade cards, and there's a card I really love, and there could be games with the cards. Like we saw these as trading cards. And so that nature of the type of collectible it is means that it's really easy to get a very accurate view of the price. Yeah.
And I heard some people, you know, knocking the project for that, but it's hilarious to me because now the big
it's one of its biggest strengths.
Now the big thing is fractionalization, and everybody's fractionalizing.
They're trying to do what we already got.
The apes.
Yeah. But that's what an apple is, right? That's what 600
like,
apples are. It's one apple fractionalized 600 times. It's the same thing.
Like the shard, So
they're all trying to break their cards up, and we did that already.
I think like what you said about how you guys wanted, you know, distribution and everybody.
We did that on purpose. You know, we thought through it. Like we did that on purpose. This is easier for people to find the price. It's easier to trade. It's easier to hold. We didn't invent that. We weren't like geniuses. We just looked at, you know, Magic, right? We looked at baseball cards. We looked at trading cards. And Tom, who is another co-founder, he brought a lot of knowledge about like comic books and baseball cards and trading cards to the table on that. And you know, he educated on all this, us on all this. But even then, I'd play Magic with friends, and it's just so much easier when you have that kind of fractionalized art.
Yeah, I really appreciate that because we have so many pieces that are going for tremendous amounts nowadays, and that, you know, the history of this and how old it is, that you can come in. I mean, when we did the show, you could get this card was like $180, and like that's mind blowing to me. Like you can come in, you can still get a card
the
under
BTC. It was less than that because
the day after our show,
I bought one the day after. Yeah.
The day after our show, the cheapest one I saw on the market was 0.014. And I almost jumped then, but I waited. And I wish I wouldn't have waited.
I know.
Yeah. You lose, dude.
You can't get the price. You know, you'll never get the price you want.
Yeah.
That's the problem with volatile assets. It's a flaw, and that's an issue. And while I'm very proud of the liquidity this has, it's still not as liquid as like Ethereum or Bitcoin. So it can be really hard to get cards sometimes, but we have that full gamut. Yeah, you got the card for $100. I think now the floor is much higher than that's 0.3. But then there's also the cards going for there's a 29 selling for $1 million right now.
Right.
I'm so happy to see this. Honestly, we love stories like this, right? And like seeing good things happen to good people.
Yeah.
So I just want to like give you guys a shout out. Like, congratulations. Thanks. You guys have, you know, I don't know if you want like the pat on the back, like you've made it, hey, you know, but it just, you know, it's
still a lot to do.
Yeah. And I appreciate your attitude and like your attitude towards artists, and like
most
this whole project
is
great.
There.
Exactly. The foundation of the community part of this is I, you know, as soon as we started peeling back the layers and kind of understanding what we were looking at here, we realized like, oh, we opened up something pretty awesome here. And just, you know, again, you taking the time to come here and talk to us tonight, you know, I really appreciate it. The only other questions that, you know, that I think we didn't cover that actually came from chat was about the Lisas. Like everybody likes the Mona Lisa, and like it's kind of like an allure, and the clean Lisa, you know. So maybe like, you know, if there's like a little blurb or where that came from, or why you decided, or you know, why you guys decided to use the Mona Lisa for the painting.
The no involvement in that decision at all. Nobody really was. We're talking to Philippe, and we wanted a story, and you can see the 1 through 10 cards are a story, and there are videos out there. Crypto Lurker has a great breakdown explaining the whole story of 1 through 10, so you can watch that because it's
Okay.
like it's a whole thing. But 8 is because of 5, right? There's paint becomes paintings, ink becomes books, etc. Clay becomes sculpture. So we said, Philippe, hey, we need a painting card, a card with a painting on it, is what we decided on with him. And Philippe gave us the Mona Lisa. So Philippe picked Mona Lisa. And probably because it's extremely recognizable, right? But then we have these sort of the side effects of its popularity. One, first Mona Lisa on a blockchain.
Yeah.
That has not been disproven anyway. I think there was like a Pepe Lisa, Mona Lisa, maybe.
Ooh.
I actually
We
don't
need
know
to talk
if somebody
about
could figure that
Pepe's in a
out.
show. We already talked about that. Yeah.
Somebody like asked me that, and it sounded real enough that it might be real, but I actually have no idea if there is a Pepe Mona Lisa. There might not be, but in terms of like the actual representation of the art itself, this is the first
Right.
time. And on top of that, there's the meme Clean Lisa. So that actually also no involvement, that just came from the community. So the love of Mona Lisa came from the community. Somebody was selling Mona Lisas and they said, I got some great Mona Lisas, very clean, for sale.
And they were like, you got some clean Lisas, man.
Yeah. And everyone just thought that was so funny. It might have been like a language barrier thing. I think that they might have been, because there's a kind of like the slogan of Curio cards in 2017 was every Curio card is mint condition, or every Curio card is always in mint condition. That was like the
Right.
joke to like explain what an NFT is, like why, but I can just copy the JPEG. I'm like, that's the point. That's a good thing. And if you're like, that's a bad thing, it's like, it means it's always in mint condition. Like the art's always perfect. So they might have meant that, that joke, that idea that, that all the cards are in mint condition. So they're all clean, but Mona Lisa's the cleanest.
Yes.
Hold a stack
We
of
all
clean
agree.
Lisas. Hold a stack of
And-
clean Lisas for retirement.
That's
Mhm.
part of my, something
And it's
that's
got a good
really,
entry price too. Yeah, people like that as
It
well. It's not,
does. I
it's
grabbed
not a
one.
crazy expensive card.
Yeah.
it's not
It's a card that's
super,
it's more pricey than, it's not the floor, right? The floor is 0.3 and it's 0.5, so it's up there, but it's attainable, and
Right.
that appeals to people as well. It's special, but it's within reach.
something I struggled with, I want to sort by low. Something I struggled with was there's so much variety, and you're like looking at mint numbers and supply, and you're looking at value and what's fetching a premium. And you're like, okay, should I just get like one of everything that I can afford? And the trouble I ran into is like, I realized if I pick up one of everything, when it comes time to sell, like it's gonna break my heart because I'm gonna be like, this is the only
the only
BTC
one you
one I have. This is
Yeah.
You need 2 or 3 of all of them, really.
Yep.
so
Yeah.
the one I got a variety, and I built a couple mini sets. I got the crypto graffiti mini set, and then I had a lot. I got one apple, and then I was torn between, I was gonna buy, oh God, I told my sister to calm down because she was FOMOing too hard. She wanted to get this pink one at like 900. And I texted her at like 4 a.m, and she was like, I know it's at 50 grand. And I was like, I'm so sorry, but yeah,
No, I couldn't have called that either. It's nuts.
Yeah.
But it's the rarity, and the sets you're saying too, like you got the apple, that's the hardest one to get in the story set, though, the set 1 through 10. So, you're already most of your way through the 1 through 10 set as well.
Yeah. So like, this is like my hodl, like I ain't letting that go until it's so heavy that I can't hold it. But I was thinking about getting a couple of the cards, and I said, I'm not going to sell my Mona Lisa either. Why don't I just get a bunch? So I averaged into like a dozen Lisas, and I was like, that way when I want to sell out, I won't feel so bad about it, and I can sell one off here, there, and
Or if you want to use it and like reinvest into something else, higher rarity or
another
whatever.
thing. Yeah, another thing you can do,
People
like
do that if they have duplicates. They have like early on when these things were a lot more affordable, and they may have like 5 number ones or something, right? So they'd sell 4 of them and then use that money to buy the rest of the story set, so they could have all 1 through 10.
right.
Yeah.
And that's great. We want to disperse the holdings. You get them in many hands as possible.
And you can always, like, if you had to sell your apple because you needed money, you could like, take a little bit out for profits, and then take half and go buy like lower tier cards, so you don't have
Yep.
to exit the project.
That's a great strategy too. Like I still love curio cards. I still want to be exposed as I still think it's historically really important and it's going to attract the NFT market. You could believe all these things, but also like, you know, need to take the cards way up, you know, like you got to like realize that you have to do other things. You got rent and food and there's other things you want to do with it. So you sell the card and then half the money you buy back into the cheaper ones. That works for anything above floor. If you own the floor card, you don't have that option. But every other card, it works. But there's only like 2 or 3 cards that sit at floor. Everything else is
it's
higher.
interesting that these rotate at the floor too. And
I think they all have roughly the same supply. So they're rotating as around kind of like the premium people give it for the story and the art and the artist involved.
The MasterCard one has really soared in premium. I don't know if that's just a temporary thing, but since I was watching it, it was kind of like closer to these ones. And it seems like people are really drawn to it.
There's also
just a really cool
effects
design.
Around the supply.
What'd you say?
I was say there's also market effects around the sort of the true supply. So there are 2,000 number 20s, but 500 of them were like lost. They were like burned and like people mess around with bad contracts. And I think also some of them are still in zombie wallets. So these are like people bought them in 2015 or 2017 and they didn't save their wallet, you know, it was a project that didn't mean anything.
Lost the keys or whatever.
If you go on our Discord server and our announcements, it was just posted today on the announcements. One of our community members, Ezra, made this super intense analysis of every single card.
I saw that.
Looking at the native ones, the wrapped ones, and it's actually really hard. It's cool, right?
Yeah, very
it's
cool.
hard. It's hard to do because the native cards they're not ERC20. They're kind of like ERC20, but they're not. They don't hit all of the token standards correctly. They're an unstandard token. And one of the ways they're unstandard is the way they announce transfers is different than what Etherscan expects. So you can't really just look at Etherscan and see the supply. You have to like check each card holder manually. So Ezra built a whole thing that automates this, and you can see it may seem like MasterCard has the same supply as the Citi one, but if you look at Ezra's sheet, I don't know. I'm just guessing. I'm guessing the MasterCard must have like a smaller actual supply, a big percentage. It must be lost in zombie wallets or something.
Yeah.
Why is it more? Yeah.
That's a good point. So
but I would check out Ezra's sheet if you really want to know.
Might not be represented.
Understand.
I definitely will. Where is this? This is on Twitter or something?
It's in the Discord.
Oh,
it's in the Discord. We'll put some links up too.
Yeah, discord.curio.cards or just curio.cards, and there's a Discord link in the top
there.
And it's in our announcements channel. So and it was last announcement. He just announced the new version earlier today. So it's like the first thing you'll see in the announcements channel.
The Wendy's card always holds a premium above the Heineken and the Coke for some reason. I don't know if that's a supply thing or.
I can pull up Ezra's sheet and glance.
Funny enough, I live literally 30 minutes from Wendy's original headquarters. So I grew up in the town where Wendy's started.
So that one appeals to you personally, is what you're saying?
Dave Thomas, the founder of Wendy's, the original founder, his daughter went to high school with my aunt and my mother.
Wow. Dave Thomas, really? And he was the same age and like they went to school with him, or
his daughter.
Oh, okay. The Wendy's girl.
Yeah, the Wendy.
Wow.
Yeah, the girl that Wendy was coined after.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I have the Discord here.
Ohio has a lot of connections, man. We're the heart of it all, bro.
So where is this?
On the announcements channel at the very top. On all the channels, there's announcements under and it's the most recent announcement. And I'm looking at it right now. He changed the sheet around a little bit, so I actually don't know where the zombie wallet stuff is. I hope this is the zombie one. But yeah, if you click on the link that he has, it'll take you to the sheet. And I remember there was a whole column showing the zombie percentages of all the cards, and I actually don't know where it is on the new sheet. So something to follow up on in the future. But if
Yeah.
you just go in market discussion is where all this analysis happens, and just like at Ezra and market discussion and be like, hey, zombie wallet information.
Oh, right.
He'll show you.
Will do. I'm
Thanks for
definitely gonna
that.
deep dive into
That'll be
this.
a
You look at
helpful
the
tool for him for sure.
see that fully diluted market cap in the bottom left.
Mhm.
So $500 million of every Curio card was wrapped, but you can see that not all of them are wrapped. It's
Oh,
$114 million
interesting.
in terms of, and the wrapped ones are the ones that we know for sure are not lost to time.
In this
right?
market, they're being
Right, they've
circulated in this market, right?
Yeah, they've
I
They're
lit
basically
active.
been
I literally,
verified.
yeah. I literally have a notepad somewhere where I was like calculating out market caps for like each card just like this. Like I
Yeah.
was calculating them out and I was like, wow,
Yeah.
like this one, and the numbers are staggering. They're pretty staggering,
Yeah.
but very interesting,
Oh,
very
definitely.
useful.
But and you can see just like it's 2017, people who got cards didn't all hold on to their wallets because you just didn't know if they're gonna be worth anything.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna have more, to kind of call them zombie wallets, the wallets that have been active for over 1,000+ days. We have had one or two of them wake up recently, like ones that we kind of figured were dead. Suddenly they waked up and dumped a bunch of cards, which was great because we want those zombies worked out. I think we'll still see, as every time the price goes crazy, maybe someone will figure out, oh, I had a wallet for that. They'll finally show up in their Twitter feed.
They're all
The
looking
more
for
we
their
get the word
Curio
out, the more we'll
cards
find
wallets
these people.
now, right?
Yeah.
As we are, as
Yeah.
we're broadcasting right now, they're like, oh damn, I had some of those in a wallet, and they're going to
It's
look
gonna
for
be
it.
another guy,
Yeah.
Florida man at the city council
Yeah.
meeting begging the landfill to
It's
Find
exactly
his-
that, right? All the
To me,
stories
the-
of like, local man threw away a hard drive that has $300 million in
Yeah.
Bitcoin. It's
To me,
the
the
exact same thing,
beauty-
but it's
Yeah.
millions of dollars of collectible, raccoon cards.
To me, the beauty of it too is the way you guys have it all set up. The interest for you is to have them all in circulation. You know, the zombie wallet.
That's how we can get the price shock the least.
exactly.
Every time a zombie wallet wakes up, it definitely affects the market, and the prices go nuts. But then it stabilizes. The more zombies that wake up, the better and healthier the trading is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably a good
The better the
segue
liquidity.
to wrapping it up for the night. We got to let this guy go, and we're we're almost 2 hours dilemma. So
It was fabulous. Thank you
Hey,
so much.
I
love
warned
it,
Travis.
Really good
I warned
discussion.
Travis ahead of time. We like to talk.
man,
Oh, yeah,
we
I
could just
knew.
keep nerding out like all night long, but I'm sure the guy needs to get up and go use the restroom too. And this is not gonna be the last time we're gonna talk to Travis. So again,
Absolutely.
this is just the beginning of a beautiful friendship and maybe something of a professional nature, I hope, as well. Our club, we love doing stuff like this and exploring and meeting real people doing real things, real projects out there. Obviously, this has been a real part of history now, and it's only 4 years old. So if that tells anybody in crypto, like you were saying, that maybe that's had a bad run, or that, maybe a little discouraged about something, like, don't be. There's so many opportunities for everything in this industry now. And supporting real people doing real things, not only art, not only the games, but just like we're doing tonight, right? Like just a couple of friends talking some crypto, talking some art, looking at these projects, learning about things, learning your experience tonight. Man, that's been wild, because a lot of artists complain about NFTs today, and like what you guys actually had to do to mint. That'll just squash all that stuff, right?
Well, just think about the artists lately that we've heard about complaining about wax and how the market's died on wax. I mean, dude, they had what, like a 6-month run on wax where wax was real hot. Atomic Hub was blowing up and this and that, and now everybody's complaining about how it's hard to sell and it's this and that.
People say,
Imagine-
"Oh, it's a bear market," and I'm like, "It's not yet."
No,
Not even
This is
close.
not a bear market. Is when nothing happens for a year. That's a bear market.
But the way I
Not
look
2
at it
weeks.
too, and a lot of that's just comparing things to US dollars. And again, if you're accumulating cryptocurrency, you're looking at your stacks of cryptocurrency. You shouldn't necessarily be, comparing them to US dollars. But NFTs are different, right? Because it's a yes or no kind of thing, right? You're either selling it or you're
Mhm.
holding it, and you're not,
Yep.
you know, there's like some of the things that we looked at, you know, you're trading per se, like you're holding them short term, but I hold things that are NFTs in my wallets today that give me things, right? That give me drops from communities that I
Mhm.
support. I would never sell those, right? Like I get a monthly drop from an artist or a community, and by purchasing that token and holding it in my wallet, I am a member, right? And I, you know,
Mhm.
that's just like one way to like reward, you know, create world systems and use NFTs
Mhm.
and tokens. And I think we're just like barely scratching the surface, like of
Absolutely.
all
And
the
if you hang out in the
things.
Discord, you hang out in the Discord, you'll see like Robeck has been hinting a lot about drops lately. That
Yes,
is not a secret. He's been hinting a lot about doing drops on card holders.
I love that stuff.
Wow,
I
that's awesome. Is what
Mhm.
chain is he dropping on? Matic, perhaps?
No, I mean his curio cards. If you have one
Oh,
of,
he's just gonna
uh,
send people cards?
I don't. It's all secret, very
Oh,
secretive
okay.
stuff. But he's been talking in his channel publicly about things like drops on card holders.
Very
Very
cool.
So it's all
awesome.
very new. You know, the
so
artists are coming back and they're realizing, hey, we can do those things we talked about doing 4 years ago. The technology exists now,
Yeah.
there's
Very
and
cool.
I'm very
the
excited to
little
see what happens.
insider information tidbit sneak
It's all in the
peek that you
Discord. You want
got.
alpha? You want
Yeah,
alpha? Hang
just
out in the
got the
Discord.
alpha.
Each artist has their own channel, and
Yeah.
probably about half the artists hang out in those channels pretty regularly, and the other half are just people like talking about the artists because they're not as active on Discord.
Make
Very
sure to go follow, jump in the Discord, hit those buttons, follows, retweets, like guys. I know we say that, but it's true. That's how we build up our following. That's how we get those algos happy. That's how we're bringing you this content, like we're bringing you tonight. You know, again, just you know, thank you very much, Travis, for taking the time,
Thank
joining
Absolutely.
you.
us tonight, answering questions. You've been just, you know, an amazing guest, and we really appreciate it. Look forward to working with you in the future. Again, this is not going to be the last time, you know, we talk to you.
Mhm.
Love the project, you know, the artists. Congratulations to you guys. You know, like
Thank you.
I feel like you've persevered, and not only that, like, you know, you kind of saw this kind of going full circle, and you jump right back in. You know what I mean? You're like, all right,
Mhm.
let's go. You know, let's get the band back together and let's do this thing.
Let's do
And
it.
here you
Let's
are.
do the
I
thing.
love it, man. I love it. It's so awesome.
It's
And thank
refreshing.
you.
Very
Yeah, thank all
refreshing.
of you. Just the
Words.
level of care and attention you've given to your research and into the questions, and I can really see that your interest is very genuine, and I really appreciate that.
We appreciate that as well, and it's true. But a lot of that comes from our community. You know, like we have
Mhm.
real people in our community, real professionals doing real things, and they're interested in things like the history of NFTs, right? And learning things. Our artists are learning things. We're collaborating. We want to mint things. We want to be involved in community activities and games and all of the cool stuff that we're talking about. But we want to show our members the cream of it. You know, the cream of crypto, so to speak, get that education, the foundation, and
Yep.
display all the amazing things that are going on. You know, that if you don't know where to look or how to look, the noise just like they just get drowned out, right? And I think your project is definitely part of that. Again, you know, thank you guys. I can't thank you enough for joining. I'm super happy to share this with everybody out there. That's probably a good way to wrap it up. Any last words from Mr. Mayor Matic? You know, I know this is near and dear to your heart as well.
Oh, thank you for everybody for joining and checking it out. Thank you very much to Travis for spending the night with us. Appreciate it very much.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a slumber party. Again, appreciate you, you know, going along with us as well, and everybody that joined out there in internet land. You know, wherever you are in the world, I hope you have a great day or great evening. Take care of yourselves. Make sure you go out there and hit those buttons. You know, check out Curio Cards. If you have any questions for us, let us know. Hit those comments up. Take care of yourselves. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time. And we'll play a little music on the way out here. Again, thank you very much, Travis, Doc, and Mayor. Take care, guys, and have a great night.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks for hanging out tonight, guys.
Thank you. It was really great.
All right, take care, everybody.
love her right now, but she's like no other. She ain't gonna wait till the morning light to find him. She's a fine sister, but no daylight kind of girl. She only wanna make it right, and she's gonna make it all right tonight.
Bye.